black actors in it. Any white guys in the movie? Are there any white guys in Boys in the Hood? That's a good question. That's a good question. Are there any white guys in Boys in the Hood?
I don't think
That's
so.
a good question. So what's your point? So what's your point? They say that's one of the dopest movies ever. That was one of the dope. Gotta have it. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, the cops. The cops. That's who. That's who was in there. That was the white dude. The police. So where are we going with this? What you got? Don't try to come here with that funk. What's this dude's name anyways? D something. I wasn't even paying attention. I bet the white dude got killed first. First of all, let me ask you something. Why are you even coming in here with that black and white bullshit?
Connected to iPhone.
Yeah, he trolling. He trolling. He trolling. Yeah.
iPhone disconnected. Ready to pair.
Hey,
Connected to iPhone. Connected to iPhone.
need some milk? Do you need some milk,
iPhone
bro?
disconnected. Ready to pair. Connected to iPhone.
For real, do you need some milk? I got some coconut milk in the fridge, man. You might need some milk.
So you might need some milk.
I could get rid of you, but I'm really trying to offer you some milk. You know. That's all I'm trying to do. You need some watermelon. I actually do. I love watermelon with seeds in it. With seeds. This is a little kid. Go ahead and hey, how old are you, DK? Before we get rid of him, I can't believe I'm even entertaining a troll, but we could do it for a second. I mean, yeah, he's struggling with his troll game. He needs some titty milk. Westside Perk, for real. He needs some shit straight from the titty. Straight from the titty. Fact.
I like I like when
At
trolls
Pat
come
Pelican
in.
Ford, we take pride in providing the
And so he
experience.
got my man got a troll in his stream. He just fucking with him hard, yo.
Is humanity really? Working out the age of humanity isn't as easy as checking our birth certificate and counting candles on a cake. First, we must define what humanity even is. Is it the period of organized civilization? Is it the timeline of modern human existence? Or does humanity date back to the very first instance of the Homo genus here on planet Earth? All of these things are measurable, and their values have changed constantly due to new and exciting evidence discovered as recently as last month. So, let's take a look at some of the potential answers to the question, how old is humanity, really? Number 3. 5,300 years.
No.
Human history only goes back around 5,300 years because this is when our ancestors first began to use writing systems to document what was going on. The wars we fought, the laws we invented, the new way of spearing a bison so it dies quickly and doesn't cry out with a scream that echoes through your dreams. All of this began being recorded for the first time during the Bronze Age, when writing was developed in the modern-day Iraqi region known as Sumir. But there was plenty going on before then, and just how far back advanced human civilization goes is a point of contention among many historians. It was first believed that a single cradle of civilization emerged from our race of hunter-gatherers in the Fertile Crescent of Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt in around 10,200 BC. From here, organized societies spread out to Çatalhöyük in Turkey, Mehrgar in Pakistan, and Ain-us-Sultan in Palestine. And after this, the Sumerians and pre-dynastic Egyptians formed, setting the groundwork for our complex modern civilizations today. However, evidence is constantly emerging of older, separate civilizations having developed outside the Fertile Crescent in many places around the world. Chinese agriculture is now thought to have begun about 9,000 years ago. Ceramics dating back to 8,000 BC seem to indicate the existence of an organized society in South America. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey looks like it was occupied by a considerable population as early as 11,500 BC. And the unearthing of ancient Jomon pottery in Japan could be considered as evidence that a cultured, sophisticated group of people existed as far back as 14,500 BC. But is that it? Or did mankind get itself together even earlier? Number 2. 300,000 years. Earth's last glacial period, also known as the Ice Age, lasted from 110,000 years ago to about 11,700 years ago. During this time, Earth was much colder than it is now, with huge glaciers dominating the landscape across both hemispheres. These frigid conditions trapped humans in their status as hunter-gatherers, as with no one patch of land reliable enough to grow crops on a regular basis. Our transient existence prevented us from forming ourselves into agriculture.
I thought I had some more, and I can't find it. Yeah, that's definitely not going to be enough paint. I can't believe that I used this whole tube already. That doesn't make sense. Shit. So, first thing I'll be doing tomorrow is going to the art supply store and grabbing a tube of
societies.
raw sienna.
When the last glaciation event began, it was previously thought that Homo sapiens had only existed in Africa for 100,000 years prior, having first emerged there 200,000 years ago. The original timeline has us spreading out of Africa throughout a period dating 125,000 years ago to 18,000 years ago, during which time our current interglacial period began. The warmer climes this period brought enabled further migration as the glaciers retreated, and this led to the formation of the first advanced societies. But in June 2017, our assumptions were shattered by the discovery of the remains of 5 people in a Moroccan mine. These remains, which date back 300,000 years, closely resemble Homo sapiens to an extraordinary degree. Experts are still divided as to whether these remains are those of modern humans, but even if they're not, they're almost certainly our close relatives. So, if there was a single African cradle, human beings may have left it a lot earlier than we previously thought. The new theory is that the entire African continent may have been teeming with humans, rather than us being limited to one single region. And furthermore, the fact that we existed 100,000 years before we originally believed means that anatomically modern humans have experienced 1, 2, or potentially 3 additional interglacial events over the past 450,000 years. So, might an advanced civilization have formed during one of these pockets, only to be wiped out by the devastation of a glacial period? We're not quite sure. We don't have any evidence of such an ancient society yet. But as we've seen from the Moroccan discovery, everything can change if you start digging in the right places. Number 1. 2 million years. When did humans first leave Africa to explore the planet? 200,000 years ago? 300,000 years ago? Wrong. Try 2 million years ago. Homo ergaster lived between 1.9 million and 1.4 million years ago. And this extinct ancestor of Homo sapiens led the first effort by a member of the Homo genus to spread its influence across the Earth. The Homo genus has only existed for about 2 to 3 million years, beginning with Homo habilis and moving on to Homo ergaster and Homo erectus. The latter two may or may not be the same species, but either way, it was a group from this time which made the first steps out of Africa, many thousands of millennia before Homo sapiens would attempt to do the same. Homo ergaster remains have been found in southern Eurasia dating back 1.75 million years. Homo erectus has also been discovered to have made its way to Southeast Asia 1.6 million years ago. One alternative theory states that it was actually our ape-like ancestors who made the first move even earlier than this. Australopithecines, or an unknown Homo species, may have attempted global exploration over 2 million years ago. But it was Homo ergaster who achieved the most success due to their advantages over their rivals. Homo ergaster had a more modern body shape, which enabled it to travel huge distances. Ergaster was also smarter than its ancestors, as well as being more technologically advanced and having a better diet than Homo habilis or its ape-like predecessors. Unfortunately, Homo ergaster was something of a traditionalist. It had its certain little ways and it stuck to them, as is evidenced by the fact that after developing a basic form of hand axe, Homo ergaster continued using the same design for over 1 million years. When Homo sapiens came along, we proved more adaptable, refining our traditions and technologies and enabling faster progress. This led to the extinction of several other human species around 100,000 years ago. The Neanderthals then died out 30,000 years ago. The last vestiges of Homo erectus snuffed it out about the same time, and their descendants, Homo floresiensis, were extinct 12,000 years ago. Since then, we've been the last remaining human species here on planet Earth. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And we may owe much of this success to just one woman, Mitochondrial Eve. Mitochondrial Eve is the mother of humanity. She is the one single woman from whom all modern humans descend through their moms. Her mitochondrial gene is present in each and every one of us. And as time goes on, we're beginning to find out more and more about one of the most important people in human history. We're going to investigate what we know about dear old mom in our bonus video, Eve, the Mother of Man, which you can watch on our Patreon page at patreon.com/strangemysteries. For a $2 a month pledge, which you can cancel at any time, you'll get to watch this and all of our bonus content, which goes deeper and darker into every topic than YouTube allows. If you don't want to donate, then that's bullshit.
We know you wanted more. Strange Mysteries on YouTube and our Patreon bonus videos weren't enough to quench your search for truth, to give you that sense of awe and wonder again. to go past what you thought was the end, to give you the answers you seek, but which only lead to more questions. That's why we just up the stakes. Chemicals of reality. Reality, consciousness, brains. What else is there? Ask yourself that question. Perhaps that's all there really is, but perhaps everything else is found within a place where these ideas, these things, overlap. Some thing, some place that is undefinable. To many people, altering certain chemicals in their brains produces what they would simply call hallucinations. In fact, what we're going to discuss specifically used to be called the businessman's trip, as one could enjoy it. Come down and put your pants back on in the time it takes to eat lunch. It wasn't taken seriously. Well, unless, of course, you started digging. And some people, including us, did. Already, though, to many people, this chemical is special amongst others. Very special. To them, it represents something more meaningful and incredible, as if it's the gateway to the next level of consciousness. The ticket to a higher reality barely explored by most humans. It is the entry point to a new reality, visited by only a select few, whose minds have become enlightened through the use of this exotic substance. For this reason, it's commonly referred to as the spirit molecule. But is its reputation as a mystical mind opener deserved? Or is it, and everything it represents, just a load of bullshit? We look at, investigate, and dive deeply into nearly all available research regarding this question, from nearly every angle feasible. And in the course of doing so, stumble upon unexplainable patterns, correlations, and neurological evidence for a reality existing beyond this one. Watch this hour-long Strange Mysteries premium video, Chemicals of Reality, as well as many more to come by becoming an elite premium member of our Patreon at patreon.com/strangemysteries.
I'll probably be here for like an hour maybe. What's up, guys? I'll probably do this for an hour, and then I'll probably go play the game for like an hour, and then take my ass to bed.
Dollar Shave Club, Dollar Shower Club, Dollar Skincare Club, Dollar Oral Care Club, Dollar Hair.
The hyper-evolution of humanity. The human race is not immune from evolution. You could be forgiven for thinking otherwise due to our species' increasing reliance on technology. But despite the presence of labor-saving devices, mass transportation, and on-demand erotica, evolution continues to exert its influence on Homo sapiens today. And what's more is that evolution could be occurring faster than ever before, with the human race currently undergoing a period of hyper-evolution like nothing we've ever seen before. Modern evolution. In 2015, a study published in Nature Genetics revealed that all modern humans can trace their ancestry back to a common male ancestor, a genetic Adam who existed 250,000 years ago. This discovery means that humans are genetically diverging faster than we previously thought, and that the evolution of our species is progressing more rapidly than at any point in human history. This may not seem the case if you've ever watched an episode of Here Comes Honey Boo Boo, but we assure you it's true. Evidence of contemporary evolution was published earlier this year in the paper Signatures of Negative Selection in the Genetic Architecture of Human Complex Traits. which exposed a number of recent gene alterations. Using genomic information taken from 126,545 participants in the UK's Biobank project, 28 traits were identified and investigated by a team of University of Queensland researchers in an attempt to study how the genes linked to these attributes changed between generations. Body fat percentage, male pattern baldness, and type 2 diabetes were just some of the traits investigated, with others including hand grip strength, educational attainment, and neuroticism scores also tracked. Now that last one seems a bit of a mistake to me. If romantic comedies have taught me anything, it's that British dudes are super neurotic. This study may as well have investigated the peacefulness of Canadians, or the propensity for Welsh people to invent words that are deliberately too difficult to say. I mean, look at the state of yourself, Wales. This is not okay. I digress. Upon the conclusion of the study, researchers found that characteristics which improve your survival chances are still being favored today, with natural selection also causing non-favorable attributes to be continuously discarded. Traits related to fertility and cardiovascular health were the most influenced by natural selection. And this should be no surprise, given our generation's love of casual hookups and hot pockets. Sometimes both at once if I'm feeling lavish. Those who are genetically predisposed to having more fat around their waist were seen to be less likely to pass this on to their children, with this trait known to increase your chances of developing heart disease and type 2 diabetes. Likewise, the age at which women developed the menopause was also heavily influenced by natural selection, with evolution favoring a later onset to increase a woman's lifetime fertility. These developments may seem minor on their own, but when you look back at the history of recent human evolution, they serve to paint a picture of a species whose genetic future is very much guided by its own well-developed hand. Evolution by necessity. The next time a creationist tries to convince you that evolution is a myth, just drag them up to the top of a Tibetan mountain and force them to watch while a white Estonian person eats a whole block of cheese without throwing up. If they know anything about the genetic history of human beings, they should be instantly convinced. Do we need to explain why? Oh, all right then. For a start, the low oxygen levels at the top of a mountain should make regular humans pass out and die. But studies of the Tibetan people have revealed that their blood is able to create a higher number of oxygen-transporting hemoglobins than any other group. This ability is present in the genes of Tibetans due to their historic inhabitants of high-altitude landscapes like the Himalayas. And geneticists believe the mutations which enable this may have taken place within the past few thousand years. Next up, the reason for the white Estonian. Blue-eyed people are the most commonly found in northeastern Europe and Scandinavia, and this trait is also the result of a recent genetic divergence, with scientists believing that baby blues are the result of a mutation in a single genetic ancestor who lived 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. As for the white skin, well, that only developed when humans left Africa. Until about 10,000 years ago, Europeans and Africans were similarly pigmented. Racism was basically impossible back then, just like Kanye believes it is now. White skin absorbs vitamin D more efficiently than darker skin, and this trait was essential for humans living in colder northern climates with less exposure to the sun. And finally, we come to the cheese. Did you know that once an animal has finished being breastfed, it loses the ability to process milk sugars? This is true of all animals and the majority of humans, with 3/4 of the world being lactose intolerant. Many of these milk haters still consume dairy. They just lack the enzymes necessary to digest it, leading to the unfortunate expulsion of said items in the form of a backdoor liquid explosion. However, those who are blessed by the dairy queen are able to enjoy the fruitful bounty of bovine bosoms do so due to a genetic mutation which appeared in Hungarians 7,500 years ago. The consumption of high-calorie dairy items helped early Europeans survive the incredibly harsh winters which prevailed at the time. This explains why some adults can still drink milk today, and also how vegans would have gone extinct if they lived in prehistoric Europe. One of the most shocking evolutionary developments in recent human history has been the gradual shrinking of the human brain. which itself follows many millions of years of consistent brain growth. As yet, we have no evidence as to what is causing human brains to shrink, but one theory suggests it may have something to do with our peaceful and organized modern existence. And this is just one example of how our societal and technological development is helping to guide, rather than prevent, the path of human evolution. Controlled evolution. Cro-Magnon humans existed in Europe between 20,000 and 30,000 years ago, and they may have possessed the largest brains of any humans, past, present, or future. Until Cro-Magnon came along, our brains have been growing continuously since our emergence as an intelligent species. But between 20 and 30 millennia ago, things changed course, and modern human gray matter has shrunk by 10% compared to that of our big-brained ancestors. Whether this change is positive or negative, we cannot yet say. Brain shrinkage has been noted within domesticated animals such as cats and dogs, and one theory suggests the domestication of humanity has affected us in a similar way. Cognitive scientist David Geary believes that as our society becomes ever more safe, humans require less intelligence and strength in order to survive and reproduce. This seems to ring true. How many immediate threats to your existence do you experience on a daily basis? I mean, sure, you might get run over by a car or choked to death on a particularly stupid Lena Dunham tweet, but threats to your existence do you experience on a daily survive and reproduce?
You know, I'm a black dude. I experience motherfucking hostile environments every day. I gotta stay on my toes. I gotta stay sharp. You know what I'm saying? My brain need to grow. You talking about brain shrinking? Fuck that. The Sandman.
This seems to ring true. How many immediate threats to your existence do you experience on a daily basis? I mean, sure, you might get run over by a car or choked to death on a particularly stupid Lena Dunham tweet, but neither of these things are predators, which we need to evolve to defend against. So, with most of our species' needs and threats taken care of,
I don't know if there's
is it
enough paint to
possible
do this.
reliance on technology and society may eventually cause humans to de-evolve? Devolution of a species is completely possible, with this paper demonstrating how a type of European lizard was seen to revert back to laying eggs, having previously evolved to give birth to live young. Some lizards began to spurt out live offspring 2 million years ago, which means that the rebel egg-laying lizards must have regained the ability to lay eggs quite recently, having reawakened this dormant trait within their DNA. Devolution is not, therefore, an inherently negative process. If losing a modern trait and regaining an old one helps a species to continue existing, how could this be seen as anything but a positive? In this sense, anthropologist Brian Hare believes that human brain shrinkage may too be a beneficial evolutionary trait, since it often indicates a lack of aggression and an increase in tolerance and cooperation. Our brains and bodies are adapting to our newfound comfortable existence, and as we gradually lose other archaic elements of our genetic makeup, perhaps this will also lead to a more harmonious future for mankind. One without war, murder, or Twitter. Goddamn, I hate Twitter.
Goddamn,
We may even end up healthier too, as evidence published in New Scientist seems to show that genes associated with Alzheimer's and heavy smoking are both dying off. The fate of the latter is incredibly profound, since humans have only been smoking for around 8,000 years, with the practice becoming common just 2,000 years ago. In that short period of time, humans have already started to evolve into beings which are less likely to indulge in heavy smoking, while also beginning to naturally select against those with asthma, high blood pressure, and too much junk in their trunk. All of these ailments are related to harmful aspects of our modern society. And so it seems that as we create ever more ways to enjoy, thrill, and kill ourselves, evolution is there watching in the background, quietly weeding out those who take things a little too far. But what happens when humanity gains full control of evolution on a genetic level? Is this even possible? And if not, what else might guide our species development in future? We're going to explore this in our bonus video. The evolution of
Yeah, he was about to say it. Then What else would guide our evolution if we can control it completely ourselves is the necessity to live in space or on different planets. There's a movie that recently came out. I watched that shit. Yo, that shit was super fucking corny. Shit was corny as hell. But it has a real theme in it. It was called The Titan. And so the planet is dying, and they figured, hey, scientists figure, hey, we can go live on Saturn's moon Titan. All we gotta do is alter our, physiology a little bit. So they fucking take all these soldiers and put all these different kind of genes and shit in their ass and basically turn them into like an alien or some shit. It was weird as hell, but it just shows that technology, that fucking genetic editing and genetic coding and all that shit, man, they've been doing this shit for years, yo. And this gene editing shit, yo, they're gonna start testing this shit on humans if they haven't already done like major large scale human testing. Because a lot of, I don't know, it's so hard to prove that, humans are being cloned and all this other shit, but there's tons of people who believe that shit already. Like, they're cloning humans and making motherfucking super soldiers and all that other shit. But everybody knows it's coming, and this shit is not going to be like secretive for much longer.
With the practice becoming common just 2,000 years ago. In that short period of time, humans have already started to evolve into beings which are less likely to indulge in heavy smoking, while also beginning to naturally select against those with asthma, high blood pressure, and too much junk in their trunk. All of these ailments are related to harmful aspects of our modern society. And so it seems that as we create ever more ways to enjoy, thrill, and kill ourselves, evolution is there watching in the background, quietly weeding out those who take things a little too far. But what happens when humanity gains full control of evolution on a genetic level? Is this even possible? And if not, what else might guide our species development in future? We're going to explore this in our bonus video, The Evolution of Spacefaring Humans, which you can watch on our Patreon page at patreon.com/Strange Mysteries. For a $2 a month pledge, which you can cancel at any time, you'll get to watch this and all of our bonus content, which goes deeper and darker into every topic that YouTube allows. If you don't want to donate, then that's bullshit.
We know you wanted more. Strange Mysteries on YouTube and our Patreon bonus videos weren't enough to quench your search for truth.
Yeah, I read
To
that.
give you that sense of awe and
I
wonder.
read that article, yo.
To go past what you thought was the
They found
to give
that
you the
fucking
answers
sample
you
with
seek.
some genetic material in it, and they're like, yo, we can just
Why we just
take some elephant, takes
of reality.
the egg, the embryo of an elephant, yo, splice this fucking woolly mammoth code in that shit. Boom, we done brought back an extinct animal.
Is found within a place where these ideas,
But
these things overlap.
I don't know.
Some thing, some place that is.
That shit is crazy. And when they start doing shit like that, yo, you know what I'm saying? Shit will fucking change. Shit is about to change majorly in like the next 15, 20 years. The shit that we're gonna see on a like with genetics and different research projects like that, yo.
Well, unless of course you started digging. And some people, including us, already the many people
Dang. That shit way darker than I meant for it to be. That shit is all the way black. I wanted to kind of thin out to a little bit gray, but Fuck.
visited by only a select few whose minds have become enlightened through the use of this exotic substance. For this reason, it's commonly referred to as the
You say you painting with water?
but his reputation as a mystical
You never heard of something called watercolor?
everything it represents, just a little extra. We look at, investigate, and dive deeply into nearly all available research regarding this book, from nearly every angle feasible. And in the course of doing so, stumble upon unexplainable patterns, correlations, and neurological evidence for a reality existing beyond this one. Watch this hour-long Strange Mysteries premium video, Chemicals of Reality.
Chemicals of Reality.
By becoming an elite premium member of our Patreon at patreon.com.
Y'all be wanting to listen to some of these things, man, but I don't know. If it sounds too crazy, I'd rather listen to it first before I listen to it on camera. I used to like Neil deGrasse Tyson, but I don't like that dude too much anymore. Yeah, my fucking YouTube is giving me. Goddamn, the rhinoceros is going extinct, but we trying to bring back a damn woolly mammoth. Bitch, it ain't even the ice age no more. Where you gonna put the motherfuckers at? You gonna do that shit in Antarctica or some shit? Like, what the fuck, man? Don't worry about the rhinos. We're gonna replace them with the mammoth.
Ethiopia, home to more than 100 million people, the original home of the coffee bean, seat of the African Union, and a nation whose roots stretch back into ancient times. Ethiopia has been heavily settled, going far back into prehistory. Da'amet is the earliest known kingdom in this region, and was a contemporary of ancient Egypt and Nubia to the north. On the opposite side of the Red Sea, facing Da'amet, was the kingdom of Saba, in modern-day Yemen. These kingdoms appear to have had close ties, and some even theorize that they may have formed a single kingdom. According to Ethiopian tradition, this was the home of the legendary Queen of Sheba. She converted to the faith of Solomon of Israel, and bore his child, who returned to Ethiopia to rule as king, beginning a long line of Ethiopian kings, who claim direct descent from King Solomon. The Ethiopian Church today maintains the Ark of the Covenant was brought to this ancient kingdom during this period, and is being kept safely there under guard.
Yeah, that's some real shit, yo. Giraffes? Yo, I ain't know that shit. Yo, forever, yo. I'm not really big into the Bible and the church and all that shit no more. It's not a Native American. Uh, or it's not what your idea of a Native American looks like. But like I said, you know, the Bible stories are kind of like, I don't know if I really believe that shit, but Ethiopia really does claim they own the Ark of the Covenant, like from the Bible, like the fucking box that's supposed to hold the Ten Commandments. Like Ethiopia swears down they got that shit, yo. That's one thing I do know about that shit.
The Ethiopian Church today maintains the Ark of the Covenant was brought to this ancient kingdom during this period, and is being kept safely there under guard for more than 2,500 years.
Yeah, they
But
dead
under
serious.
Tiamat gradually eroded into several city-states and successor kingdoms around 400 BC. One of these, Axum, would evolve into the first well-documented great power to rise in Ethiopia, and was able to unite the northern Ethiopian highlands, beginning around the 1st century BC, where they established bases on the Ethiopian plateau, and from there expanded. By the 1st century AD, they became a major player on the commercial route between the Roman Empire and ancient India. A notable Persian religious figure and scholar of the time regarded Axum as one of the 4 great powers of his day, alongside Persia, Rome, and China. To facilitate this booming trade, the Axumite kings minted large amounts of gold currency that became widely used and have been found throughout the Mediterranean to India. Around 325 AD, the king Ezana converted to Christianity, making it the state religion, and was also the first state to ever use the image of the cross on its coins. Ezana campaigned against the kingdom of Kush to the north, as far as the borders of the Roman province of Egypt, and is believed to have been the reason for that 1,000-year-old kingdom's collapse. Included in his many titles were King of Kings, King of Saba, King of Salhen, and King of Himyar, which are all in modern-day Yemen, indicating that he either controlled or annexed these kingdoms. Or perhaps they were merely tributaries. The kingdom of Axum would reach its apogee during the reign of King Caleb, who invaded the Arabian Peninsula in 520 with a vast army against the Jewish king Yusuf of Himyar, who had been persecuting the kingdom's Christian population. 5 years after installing a native Christian viceroy, one of his own Axumite generals killed the viceroy and declared himself king of Himyar. This general turned king, Abraha of Himyar, is mentioned in the Quran for his failed invasion of Mecca in the year 570. The rise of the Arab Empire would signal the decline and eventual demise of both of these kingdoms. Axum was completely cut off from any contact with the Christian Roman Empire and the vast revenues generated from Roman trade. The kingdom of Axum had a slow decline and began to contract back into the highlands. The kingdom of Alodia formed on its northern border and converted to Coptic Christianity and spoke a Nubian dialect, in contrast to Axum's Semitic dialect and script, used since the days of Tiamat in the 9th century BC. According to Ethiopian tradition, around the year 1000, a female pagan warlord overthrew the kingdom of Axum, laying waste to the land, burning ancient churches to the ground, and hunting down all members of the royal family of Axum. The last of her dynasty, which ruled over a much diminished kingdom, was overthrown by Maratakla Haymanot in 1137, establishing the Zegwe dynasty, although some scholars believe this dynasty was established earlier. The most famous ruler of the Zegwe dynasty was Gebre Lalibela, who constructed 11 churches, carved straight from a single piece of stone, and attempted to construct a new Jerusalem as his new capital, in response to the capture of the Old Jerusalem by the Muslims in 1187. Despite the piousness of the Zegwe, they had one thing working against them in the eyes of many of their subjects. They did not claim direct descent from the biblical King Solomon, and around the year 1270 they were overthrown by a dynasty that did claim Solomonic descent. This Solomonic line of kings ruled Ethiopia for more than 700 years, with a brief interruption during the 14-year Abyssinian Adal War, in which the Adal Sultanate was able to annex Ethiopian Abyssinia with Ottoman help, only to be beaten back to their original borders by the Ethiopians with Portuguese assistance. The Age of Princes was a period in Ethiopian history from 1769 till 1855, when the country was de facto divided within itself into several regions, with no effective central authority. It was a period which the emperors from the Solomonic dynasty were reduced to little more than figureheads, confined to the capital city of Gondar, and local warlords fought each other for supremacy. This came to an end with the reign of Tewodros II, who re-established his dynasty's authority over the nation. However, this respite was short-lived, and he would commit suicide instead of being taken prisoner by a British expedition. The British would sack the Ethiopian capital and carry the Solomonic dynasty's crowns and treasure they had accumulated over the centuries back to Britain. Ethiopia's troubles were not over, and in 1874, the Ottoman-backed Ismail Pasha of Egypt invaded Ethiopia with the goal of creating an empire that would include the entire length of the Nile River. His sizable army included a large number of recruited American and European officers. The Ethiopians had been working hard on organizing and modernizing their military since their experience against the British, and were able to utterly defeat the Egyptians in 2 decisive battles. The Ethiopian Emperor Yohannes would die in battle against a Sudanese raiding force 13 years after defeating the Egyptians. His successor, Menelik II, would expand the Ethiopian Empire and defeat a full-scale Italian invasion. The technologically superior Italians were decisively defeated in a bloody war that they expected to be a casual affair. 40 years later, masterminded by the Italian journalist turned dictator Benito Mussolini, the Italians invaded again, this time sending an overwhelming force of approximately 500,000 men, 600 aircraft, and 800 tanks. Despite this, the war was still a long and bloody affair. The Italians gained little from the annexation and committed widespread atrocities against the Ethiopian population, which they never fully managed to control. Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie returned to Ethiopia from exile in England to help rally the resistance. The British began their own invasion in January 1941 with the help of Ethiopian freedom fighters. The last of the organized Italian resistance in Italian East Africa surrendered in 1941, ending the Italian rule. The Solomonic monarchy was fully restored after the war. In the decades that followed, Haile Selassie would begin to slowly implement democratic reforms in the nation. However, many blamed his grasp on power for the slow pace of modernization. During the Cold War, Selassie received the backing from the United States, and when widespread drought and famine hit the nation in 1974, the aged monarch was overthrown by a socialist faction in the military. They viewed Selassie as an agent of the corrupt capitalist West, and united with Eritrea, forming a larger chaotic state that was plagued by infighting and disastrously planned and implemented socialist policies. Eventually, Mengistu Haile Mariam brought an end to the more than decade-long power struggle and attempted the creation of a state following the Soviet model, famines and genocide included. In 1991, as rebels closed in on the capital of Addis Ababa, he fled and was granted asylum in Zimbabwe as an official guest of Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe, where he still resides today at the age of 80, despite calls for his extradition. This was followed by a transitional government in Ethiopia, which drafted a new constitution allowing any of the nation's ethnic regions to secede if they ever wanted to. Eritrea did so right away. And the remainder is the modern nation-state of Ethiopia. This has been Epimetheus. Huge thanks to all my awesome patrons over on Patreon who help me with this channel's expenses, and my fantastic subscribers. If you're new to this channel, don't forget to sub, hit the bell icon to get notifications every time I make a new video, and smash that like button. One more interesting bonus fact for you if you made it to the end of the video. The Rastafari religion, originating in Jamaica in the 1930s, regards Ethiopian Emperor Haile Selassie as the second coming of Christ and the embodiment of Jah on earth.
Adam and Eve were giants. Yeah, I listened to almost everything, bro. I've heard that one before, but it's. I mean, when you read Genesis and they talk, it, I read Genesis like 6 times, and it's just weird as fuck, yo. It's weird as fuck. You know what I'm saying? And the sons of God saw the daughters of man, and that they were beautiful, and took unto themselves all whom they so pleased, and went into the daughters of men, and they created the great ones in the earth, the men of renown. It's like, what the fuck? All right, what is this shit describing? The Nephilim? Wait a minute. And it's like, I don't know. And whatever they created, like that shit pissed God off so bad. He is like, yo, fuck that. I'm gonna kill all you motherfuckers. I told you not to fuck the humans. Yeah, fuck it. Oh, giants built the pyramid? I don't know if, I don't know, man. Yeah, the big fro. Yeah, and this is the photographer is a husband and wife couple out of Atlanta, and that's their whole business is photographing black people with natural hairstyles. Like, yo, I mean, you got it's Creative Soul Photos. Oh yeah, this right here is gonna be fucking crazy with that turquoise and that pink in there. Mhm. Let me go wash this brush. I still can't find that other thing I was listening to earlier.
And many, many examples of this. This is an astronomical observatory. In this case, arguably the oldest astronomical observatory in the history of humanity. Scholars believe it's somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000 BC. So possibly as old as 11,000 years ago. Two American physicists called Thomas Brophy and Robert Bauval wrote a fantastic book called Black Genesis, looking at the relationship between this astronomical observatory and the evolution of the ancient Egyptian religion and subsequent civilization. Next slide, please. Which brings us on to the first point of contention in ancient African history. Can you see here, for anyone who didn't see this film, and I didn't see this film, I'm not in the habit of watching propaganda, that Hollywood is trying to convince us that in ancient Northeast Africa, Anglo-Saxons were the ruling elite. People that look like Christian Bale. Now, for anyone who saw the film, which I didn't, but people told me, in this film, all the slaves and the servants were black. Now, for anyone who understands the way film and TV works, that doesn't happen by accident. There's a thing called a casting agent. And a casting agent decides who's going to get what roles. So some casting agent said, the ruling elite in ancient Egypt are all going to be white, and the slaves and the servants are all going to be black. We're going to project apartheid South Africa back 5,000 years into North African history. How accurate is this picture of ancient Egypt? Let's see. Next slide, please. Follow a little more. National Geographic Channel. This image here of King Tut. I don't know why we need a scientific reconstruction of King Tut. We have copious amounts of carvings and paintings of King Tut from his actual life, but apparently this is a French reconstruction based on his skull. This is apparently what King Tut looked like. We're going to see how inaccurate that is in a minute. On the other cover, this was an article that came out a couple of years ago called Black Pharaohs, Conquerors of Ancient Egypt. And essentially what the article said, which is the revised new propagandistic position in relation to ancient Northeast Africa, aka ancient Egypt, that black pharaohs came into ancient Egypt right at the end of the civilization in the 25th dynasty, and they conquered Egypt, and because of racism, no one's ever told their story till now. But guess what? We're here to tell you that in the 25th dynasty, 3,000 years after the founding of ancient Egypt, black people finally got involved in the game. And the only people that believe different are crazy Afrocentric black people trying to make themselves feel better. This is almost exactly what the article says, even though I'm, of course, being sarcastic. Let's again see how accurate that is. Next slide, please. Now, this is the British reconstruction of Tutankhamun, based on the same skull. Can you see here that if the French and the British were both using scientific techniques, how come the British scientists came up with this, and the French one came up with one that looks French? Next slide, please. But again, there's no need. This is Tutankhamun in his own life. We've got to make up our mind. Was he jet black or was he red? Now, if you know much about ancient Egyptian art, or even ancient Nubian art, you will know that red was a symbolic colour. I don't know what it meant, and we don't know what it meant, but all throughout ancient Northeast African history, even among the Igbos in Nigeria, you find in their art, men painted red, women painted yellow. I've seen this in Nubian temples. No one's arguing that that meant the Nubians were red. Of course, there are Africans, like Somalians and Eritreans, that have a dark red complexion. They're just as African as anyone from Nigeria. But Tutankhamun clearly couldn't have been both red and black. So we need to figure out which one he was. Next slide, please. Now, no one disputes these invasions, okay? When we talk about who the ancient Egyptians were, there's consensus that Egypt has been invaded over half a dozen times. I haven't even included in this list the Ottoman invasion, I haven't included the French or the British invasion. It all came after this. But the Arab invasion in the 7th century of the Common Era, then the Vandals, which is where the word vandalism came from, because they was a bit mad, to use the technical term. That came in the 5th century.
All right, guys, I'm about to go get on the game
the
for a
whole
minute.
of North Africa, not just Egypt, was a Roman province. Before that, Greek,
Then
before
what
that,
time is
Persian,
it?
525 BC. At the most conservative estimate,
Then I gotta go to bed
ancient
so I can get
Egyptian
up early
history
enough for
for
gym in the morning.
begins in 3100 BC. I say most conservative because I don't actually agree with that chronology, because my teacher, Robin Walker, big shout out to that OG, taught me that there's reasons to disagree with that chronology. But nonetheless, if we go with the most conservative estimate, can we see that the Persians still got to Egypt 2,500 years after the founding of ancient Egyptian? So who was living in Northeast Africa?
Yep, I'm about to go turn the game on right now. Yeah. Play some Battlefield for a minute. Oh, wrong button.